afternoon, everyone, and thanks very much for joining the BCS Careers Inspiration. This series is designed to help you find out all about different kind of careers in technology from people working in all different areas of digital, and hopefully it will bring some careers to life for you and also help you with some information for the future. So this afternoon we're joined by Connor, a software development apprentice, and he's working at Aston Martin Red Bull Racing Formula One team. And then we've also got Julianne, who works at Milton Keynes College with all different apprentices as well. So we're going to have a chat for around 10 or 15 minutes, and there'll be some time as well at the end for you to ask some questions, but you don't need to wait till the end if a question pops to your mind at any time. Just use the tool on the right hand side and you can enter it in there, and then we'll get through as many of those as we can at the end as well. So thanks very much to Connor and Julianne for joining us today. And the first thing we'd like to start off with really is for you, Connor, just to tell us a little bit about your job and what you do and what's kind of involved in your role.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone. So my job is software development. So I spend most of my time creating, developing and testing new or pre-existing applications. So this involves a large amount of time spent programming in different languages, whereas since I have started, the main language which I have been programming in is C#, which is a Windows language primarily. But I'm not limited to just that. I've also had lots of experience since working, developing applications from the UI perspective at the top end down to the database. But since I am on an apprenticeship, I also spend some time at work doing some independent learning just to boost my own skills and help me be better at doing my job, which also includes going to MK College once a week during term times to study in this area.
Thanks, Connor. Thanks very much. That's great. And it would also be interesting to hear maybe about some of the different projects that you're working on at the moment. What's kind of going on for you right now?
So at the moment, I'm working on an application which monitors data that comes off of the car, and then we determine whether there is a problem with the car based on that data, which would then trigger an alarm appearing on the screen. So this is useful during races, tests, and those type of events, just for engineers to understand what's happening with the car whilst it's out on the track. But I don't just work on the programming side of developing. I also have to understand how the business works and how the users want the application to work by writing documentation, speaking to customers, understanding and resolving any problems that occur. So it's definitely much more than just the programming side.
Yeah, that sounds like a great role and a really interesting things to be working on there. And Julianne, in your role where you work with all the different apprentices, you get to see lots of the different workplaces and the different projects they've got going on. Can you give us some examples of some of the other apprenticeships and students that you've worked with?
Hello everyone. So firstly, I'd like to say you don't have to be a coder to be an IT apprentice. There are so many opportunities out there for anyone interested in IT. So if you're interested in enjoy posting on Instagram or creating videos for YouTube or even following influencers, then you could look at a digital marketing apprenticeship as a career. And here at Milton Keynes College, we have apprentices studying for digital marketing apprenticeships. Some are at Bosch, for example, we're undertaking digital marketing in email marketing. And we've also got apprentices at smaller agencies in Milton Keynes doing more creative projects such as video and photography. But all of those apprentices come into Milton Keynes College 1 day a week and then spend the rest of the week learning in their workplace. But if you're interested in communicating with people and a bit of an all-rounder and enjoy problem solving, you could look at an IT support apprenticeship or an infrastructure technician apprenticeship. These apprenticeships are very much focused on customer service. So you're often supporting people with IT problems, so troubleshooting IT problems, sometimes over the telephone and otherwise by email. And you're trained up by Milton Keynes College or your employer. So you'll start maybe with some problems, for example, password resets. And then as you get more experienced, you might be answering problems on networking. And then finally, there are opportunities to do a degree through an apprenticeship. So you could look at schemes like Network Rail or Santander. They offer 4-year degrees, so you can do your apprenticeship all the way through to gain that degree at the end.
Thanks, Julianne. That's really helpful information. And it would be really interesting to hear from you, Connor, how you kind of got into technology. Is software development and programming and technology something you've always been interested in, or how did you come to be where you are today?
I think my main interest in programming and software development probably started when I got more interested into computer games as I was growing up, just because I used to play them and think that they were really fun and cool, and I always wondered, could I make or be a part of making something that was this fun for everybody to play? And I think over time, when I went into high school, there was a computer science course which was available to take for GCSE. So then I chose to take that, which sort of furthered my interest in this area, just because I began to understand the amount of work and the amount of knowledge that it does take to make something that is as complex as a video game could be. And then when I went into A levels after high school, I also took computer science again just to get even more understanding. So I think probably high school was the first time that for me I felt like this was definitely 100% what I wanted to pursue for my career. But my interest in technology and software development is not just on the software side. So a few years ago, me and my dad, we built a computer, and ever since then I've been tweaking it, upgrading it, sort of going through the problem solving process of just breaking it, fixing it, and then just repeating just to see what could be done, what breaks it. So it's my interest is quite wide in this area.
That sounds really fun. Thanks, Connor. That's really interesting, and it's nice to hear, the sort of the fun, things that you can do outside of work as well with technology. So that's really great.
Yeah,
and Julianne, it would be interesting to hear a little bit about some of the other apprenticeships, like some different examples of the backgrounds and the reasons that people come into technology in the apprenticeship side.
So Connor came into his apprenticeship after his A-levels, but apprenticeships are available for anyone 16 years or over. So if you're a GCSE leaver this year, you could consider an apprenticeship as an alternative to sixth form. Here at Milton Keynes College, we have apprentices that have come in straight from their GCSEs into digital marketing apprenticeships. We have apprentices that, like Connor, have come in after their A-levels. And we've also got apprentices who have gone to university for 6 months and then decided that wasn't for them and gone on to an apprenticeship. And we've also got apprentices in their 40s that have decided to completely change career and go into IT at a later stage in life. Apprenticeships are there for everyone, any background, any time in your career.
That's really good to hear. Thanks, Julianne. That's nice to know. And back to you, Connor. It would be really interesting to hear about kind of what really excites you about your role and what kind of gets you up in the morning. What do you love about your job?
So I think for me, the most enjoyable thing is the programming side. I really enjoy coming into work knowing that I have to solve this problem today, and then just sitting there and writing some code, seeing if it works, and then just continuing to go in a cycle of solving each problem until it's solved. Pretty much, it's really fun to do. It's just a great feeling of reward once you have solved that problem. And then when you release a piece of software to some users and it's used in its real environment, it's a great feeling when you get some feedback saying, the application did exactly what we asked for and it was great. And then the feedback loop is just a great feeling. But I also think that I feel like sometimes programming is sort of thought to be like one person sat in a room alone, just typing away, making things work. But it's not always like that. There's a lot of working as a team and collaborating and bouncing ideas off of people, which is also enjoyable because you end up coming to a better solution when you've got multiple brains working on something with different people with different expertises in different areas. So it's really enjoyable when you get a great solution as a team.
Yeah, and that sounds like a really sort of rewarding sense of accomplishment as well. What you said about, you know, when you see your work being used by the users and it's successful and
Exactly.
it's doing what it's
Yeah.
supposed to do. And that sounds really good. Thanks. And it'll be interesting to know what your kind of working patterns are. Is it sort of a standard Monday to Friday 9 to 5, or is it a little bit different than that? And then also what kind of things you like to do outside of work, really?
Yeah, so our week is sort of the standard Monday to Friday. Our hours are 8:30 till 5:30, but it's not as strict as it sounds. The hours are fairly flexible. So if you did want to come in later and leave later, or earlier and leave earlier, you could do. Um, if you just have to manage your own time. So there's a lot of responsibility that's now put on yourself, since you are essentially a grown up. You have a full-time job, so you have to manage your own time, so that you know, if you need to be at a meeting for this time, then you have to be there for that. So it's nice to have that independentness, which is different from school, where you are sort of independent, but you're following a sort of a routine, and you know, something that you need to learn. So that's sort of a different way of viewing it. But along with that, sort of lunch times are very flexible, break times are flexible. There's a lot of flexibility in the schedule. And in my own time, I like to go to the gym, see friends and family. But also, if I have any time on weekends or anything like that, I do, because I enjoy this line of work so much, I will just create small little, just random applications, which, you know, not don't necessarily do a lot, or just a small game, just to just for fun. I'll be the only one that will use it, but it's just cool to make and see how you can make things.
That's really good. Thanks, Connor. I like to hear that. And what would you say, Connor, would be your tips for people who'd be interested in following in your footsteps? So whether that be going on and doing a sort of similar role and apprenticeship to you, or just generally working in technology, is there anything that either you thought, oh, I wish I'd have known that a few years ago, or any sort of advice that you would give to someone?
So I think if this is something that you would like to do, whether it's in software development or other areas in this sort of genre, then, you know, if you have the option to do this at high school or A level, then these are great sort of stepping stones into building up your knowledge, and sort of certifying whether you actually really want to do this or not. So if you can, even in your own time, if you have access to computers and you can go online and do some courses or watch some videos, just learning small pieces that fit into the puzzle, to then maybe make your own very small application just to boost your own learning. I think there's a lot of resources online, different websites like Code Academy, which have loads of different courses in any programming language that you may want to learn. So I think even if you were to just pick a programming language that maybe you've heard about, or that you've seen somewhere that's used quite a lot, then just anything to get you sort of into this area. Um, but I think as well that before I started work, I think I had an idea of what it would be like, sort of day one walking into the office, sort of how I had an idea of how the people would be like, what the office environment would be like. But I think in my experience, it was never like that. It was completely different, but not in a daunting way. You know, it was just sort of, I created ideas of what I thought it would be like based on what I'd seen and heard. But you know, it never is. Everybody's really friendly. The environment's always really nice. So I think it's a lot of the time when you do get to the stage of picking an apprenticeship, you just have to be confident and understand that, you know, the apprenticeship is for you to learn, so you don't have to go into it knowing everything. I certainly didn't. Before I started, I knew, you know, a couple of bits from college and high school, but as soon as you start, in the first few months, the amount of knowledge and experience that you will gain so quickly will just set you on the right path from the get-go, so you don't have to be worried about anything like that. It's just, you just got to take the leap into starting.
I really like that, Connor. Thank you. And it's a good point, you know, about that, you know, you don't need to know everything on day one. You're there to learn, and you'll pick things up so quickly because you're surrounded by it all day, every day.
Yeah.
So the amount that you learn, and I'm sure the amount that you've learned is phenomenal, really.
Yeah, the amount that I've learned since I've started, I think I could fill multiple books worth of just stuff that I've picked up. It's really crazy. Someday you'll do something the first time and you'll think, oh, I'll never remember this, and then in a week or two it will just flow off really quickly. So it is quite astounding how much you do learn.
Yeah, thank you. And Julianne, similar sort of question for you, really, about what advice you might give to people who were looking to work in technology or go forward for an apprenticeship. What advice would you give?
I've got 3 tips I'd really give to anyone looking for an IT apprenticeship. The first one would be to go on to find an apprenticeship on gov.uk. And this website lists all of the, well, lots of jobs available that are apprenticeship jobs. And you can search by your local area. And you can also sign up for alerts. So when new jobs appear on that website, you'll be alerted by email to them. And then my second tip would be to create a portfolio of best pieces of your work that you've done so that you can take them to interview like Connor did, or even to link to your CV. So if you're interested in coding and a software developer apprenticeship, get together some really good pieces of some coding examples or an app you've developed, and it might be at school or in your own time, and upload them onto Google Drive so that you've got them ready for when you go into an interview. If you were looking at a digital marketing apprenticeship, have a think about any work you've done on maybe some blogs, or you've created a web page, or even some photography, and do the same, upload those or print them out so you've got them ready as a portfolio to take. And finally, for IT support, get together a log of problems that you've done and solved at home. So for example, if you've helped on your home Wi-Fi, if that went down, write what you did, and you could always take some photos or some pictures of what went on, or even if it's your mum's mobile phone that didn't work, and get that together, get that on a portfolio ready to take into that interview, because that will stand you above everyone else. And my final tip would be on work experience. If you are working, if you've got a paper round or a newsletter round, or you've got some experience in working in a charity shop, any experience counts. Even if you can find a family member that's got a website that you can have a play at and put some content on, if you can showcase that at an interview, that will stand you ahead of everybody.
That's really fabulous advice, Julianne. Thank you. I really like those points, and it's very true. The experience and the being able to showcase the work is really good tips. So thank you. We've got a few questions that have come in from the audience, so we'll do 2 or 3 of these. One of them has come from someone who's doing programming for computer science A level, and they're asking, Connor, how often would you say you practice at home?
I think when I was at A level, I practiced quite a bit. So probably 3 or 4 times a week at home, I would do some courses, or even sometimes I would have work left over or a project for A level. So I would do some work developing that application, or even just studying up for the exam. But even now, the amount that I practice at home away from work is still probably at the same number of 3 to 4 times a week, just because there's there's always new stuff to learn. There's always new stuff to do. So if you do have the time to practice multiple days per week, then it's a great thing to do, just to help you learn. And it will help you out in college. It will help you out in the future when you go to work, because you'll also have that mindset to put in the work to understand everything. So that will just help you in everything, really.
That's a great point. Thank you. And there's a lot of questions for Connor here. Another one is, what qualification will you be getting at the end of your apprenticeship?
So I will be a level 4 BCS software developer. So I will go through an endpoint assessment at the end of next year, which will be graded, and then I will get a certification for that. So that summarizes. So they're at college now. I've just finished 2 modules, which would be software development languages, which covers mainly the coding area, and then also software development methodologies, which covers sort of frameworks behind it, such as Agile, and they're also things that you may learn at college as well. So yeah, in this apprenticeship, it's just built on some of the knowledge that I already had, and then in the next year leading up to endpoint, I'll work on applications and write-ups just to demonstrate that I have a full understanding of what to do and how to do it.
Yeah, thank you. And after your apprenticeship is finished, someone would like to know what kind of progress you could make and what jobs you could maybe go into in the Formula One team in the future.
Yeah, so I think when I finish this apprenticeship, I would love to stay at Red Bull and become sort of, I guess I'd be a junior software developer. And then I think over time, as my experience does build up, I would love to take on more responsibility, work on different applications that cover different areas of this business, because it's not just the Formula One side where it's the car going around on the track. There's also other stuff in the background. So it'd be really nice to just work in a lot of areas and slowly move up and gain more responsibility.
That's really great, thanks. And someone else is asking, so for people who are leaving school in 2020 wanting to do an apprenticeship, can you explain a little bit about how you balance, because you mentioned before about, you know, you've got to manage your own time, you're in charge of your own workload and balancing that.
Yeah.
What is it like to balance the work that you have to do for the apprenticeship with the day job? Do you kind of have a set way to manage that, and how much time do you spend, for example, on the apprenticeship work, say per week or something like that?
Yeah, so I think when I first started, it was a lot easier to balance work and apprenticeship time, just because I was fairly new. So the amount of work that I did have it wasn't sort of like piled on. It was sort of gradually worked in. So I would probably do maybe 3 or 4 hours per week on college work whilst at work. But now that sort of I've got more involved in different projects and stuff, I have to sort of mentally know that I need to set time aside for the college work. So I have on my computer at work, I have something that goes off at 5 o'clock every day, and it will just open up one file, which is something we use for college to make journal entries based on what we've done during the day, just so that I know. It sort of stops me from carrying on. I was like, I'll just finish this last bit. It's like, no, you've got to do the college work, because it is just as important as work at the moment. So it is, it's probably still more or less the same number. I also, if I do ever run behind, then I will make sure to do it in the evenings, just to make sure I will get all the college work done. So it is important that they are balanced, but there are things that you can do, like setting alarms for yourself to make sure that you are doing all the college work that you need to be doing.
Yeah, nothing like a good reminder to jog your memory, definitely. That's awesome. And then one more question for you, Connor, and then we'll move on to, there's a couple of questions for Julianne as well. So this one's come through, and you mentioned about the work that you did on the computer with your dad, and kind of building it up and then breaking it and fixing it again. Someone was just asking, at what age did you start kind of building that computer and start kind of playing around with the hardware side of things?
So I think it was probably about 4 years ago now. So I would have been around 16, 17, which was when I first started putting it together. And I think probably leading up to that, I had wanted to build a computer, and I even had like a small laptop which I was messing around with. So when I was able to get the computer at that sort of age, it did sort of spiral into that process of breaking, tweaking, and that sort of thing. So I think around that age was when I began to do all that sort of stuff.
Thank you. And Julianne, a couple for you. One was, you mentioned about the digital marketing apprenticeships, and someone was asking, are there any particular A levels that are needed, or is it okay if they've come through sort of a different career path or something like that?
Yes, there are no A-levels, specific A-levels required on that one. The digital marketing jobs tend to be either creative or technical. So some of our apprentices going into the creative jobs have really they've developed skills in photography or a passion for photography and video, but they might like creative writing. So some of them can write blogs. And so it might be they've done English and photography or media. And then we've got apprentices that are working in more technical digital marketing jobs, and sometimes they've come with a little bit more of some computer skills as well. But no specific job, no specific A-levels or GCSEs, because you could go into a digital marketing apprenticeship at either GCSE or A-levels.
Yeah, thank you. And then the last one for you is that about the degrees in degree level apprenticeships. Are they interchangeable between companies, or are they only valued in sort of like the workplace where they were gained or something? So I guess, like, is it sort of a transferable thing? Is it recognized across multiple workplaces?
In terms of moving from one employer to the other while you're doing an apprenticeship?
No, I think it was just about whether it's valued in more workplaces than just the ones that host them.
A degree is valued wherever you go. So if you get a degree for an apprenticeship, it's just as valued as it is if you went straight to university and studied full-time at university. And the benefits of doing a degree, whatever employer you do it with would be that you're getting hands-on practical experience alongside the studying at the university. So yes, absolutely valued.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, both of you, very much for your time. It's been a really, really insightful session, and I hope it's helped a lot of the viewers as well. Anyone who's watching now, you'll get a follow-up email so you can re-watch the session again if you'd like to. And we'll also send you the link to the one coming up next week as well. So thank you very much, Connor and Julianne, for all of your brilliant answers today. And I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.